business. He's the group director for HR for the Aditya Birla Group. What some of you may not know is that Dr. Santosh Mishra actually has two degrees, two postgraduate degrees. He has two PhDs, and when last heard, he also has 2 points of view on almost everything. And if I could request Dr. Jairam Vajraj to please come up and join us too. As Sudarshan pointed out earlier, Jay has come all the way from Coimbatore, and we were just discussing this, that I think it says something about what's happening in our country, that one of our more outstanding growth stories in business is still based out of a little town called Coimbatore, and he's resisted the temptation to move to, less sexy places like Chennai or worse, Bangalore. So I think, Jay, great to have you here. It's interesting. He did a lot of early work in currencies and bonds and stuff like that before becoming managing director of LG Equipments, I think in 1994. So that's like a pretty long run in running this business and building out what's truly become a global business. And last but certainly not the least, James, if you could have you up on stage, please. You've already heard of speak. As far as I'm concerned, I love this idea that I've got 4 people who, it's not about being distinguished panelists and stuff like that. I think it's about 4 people who should be fun. I have no idea what's going to happen over the next 30 minutes or so. But what I'm going to try and do is to play the part that you're playing over here, which is to try and say, all those things we always wanted to know about the world of leadership and change, and we'll try and see if we can get some answers from them. So join me as we try and get going in this one. Can you hear me at the back?
Yes.
This is refreshing actually. The last time I asked this question, they said we can't, but carry on anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do over the next 30 minutes or so is to focus on what's being given to us as what we should be discussing today, which is really building leadership capability for success in a changing global landscape. So I'd like to see this as really 3 small parts. The first is there is change happening all around us. So what's the changing global landscape all about? Second, some kind of an inventory check.
And is to create an organization that is razor sharp on execution.
And has that changed between what you have to do, let's say in an Indian environment versus now trying to take LG to be?
I said, the one thing I'll tell you, from the rest of it, I am not going to poach any of your people. And I tell my people, if you go to my competitor, please go by all means, that's your choice, but that's a one-way ticket. You're not coming back. I'm not going to enter. And I said openly in the industry forum that I'm going to invest in building our own people, and that's been the focus of
Must ask you this question first up. You obviously have this thing about business schools, becoming placement shops and not really creating leaders and entrepreneurs, right? What would you change if you were to be running a B school today? What do you think are the missing pieces which could have helped create the kind of leaders that the academy here is creating or indeed your bank is creating for?
Yeah. First of all, I have nothing against the business school, right?
Nothing for them either.
Yeah, the problem I have is what Jairam was talking today is we have to understand when people pass out of a business school in India, at best they would have worked 2 to 3 years. And just because you want to, as a professor, to look good, the point of prefixing everything with strategy and international, it's a bit of a joke. Right? It's going to be many, many years for these people to really be able to shape a strategy on their own or along with their colleagues. So again, I'm going to go back to my 2 fellow panelists in terms of, ultimately, the devil is in terms of really making the strategy come alive. If you can't get the strategy to come alive, there's no point in talking big things. So we actually, in 2006, I remember in Singapore, we took from ICICI Bank about 60 B school deans from India. Because they said we want to change the location, at least they will think differently. We pleaded with them. We brought in not only from ICICI, from a variety of people to speak to them to say that this is not ICICI's view, it's a view of the industry. Change. change the pedagogy, change the curriculum, bring in more internship. In fact, there we were challenged to say,
who would be the ICICI Bank, B school kind of people who probably make your middle management. If you look at your leadership, that's come from B school. So isn't this a case of, biting the hand that kind of fed?
no, if you look at the beauty of what our senior management is, it is not full of engineers.
I'm saying the B school bit for
I am talking about the problem I have with the B school is it's clone place full of 90% engineers getting in there. You are saying that there is no good commerce graduate in this country who can get in there? There is no humanities person who can get in there? The flawed selection system. And you tell me, when was the last time anybody in this room or the top 500 CEOs in this country ever used trigonometry and calculus in their boardrooms? When was the last time? I have not seen, I work for the best companies in India, most of them don't understand, they have forgotten it. The best engineers can't anymore tell you what is sine theta. I have nothing against engineers, because your selection in CAT is completely loaded towards what Narayana says, coaching classes, and solve the quant. But if you have a board full of people who can only think quant, who is going to think custom? So those are the kinds of
So a relative de-emphasis of quant and a little more humanities focus.
in selection. When you are selecting a plural classroom, a classroom which has a variety of people coming from different academic backgrounds.
Yeah, I must say though that one change that the business schools have made, perhaps inspired by the bank, is a lot more women now getting into the school.
15%.
Which is a hell of a lot more than it was when we went to school.
But we can get 40%. When we ran a business school, we are getting 40%.
So James, India's got this fascination and love affair with MBAs. Is this overstated? Do you see elsewhere in the world people being a little more, grounded in reality in terms of experiences, leadership traits, rather than B school focus?
That's a bit of a, yes, a bit of a challenge. If I look at refer back to my own knowledge about the UK, the business school going back about 15, 20 years ago was a very, very valid concept as a means of providing and encouraging tools of the trade.